All right, man. What up, though? All right. Everybody talking about it. Terrance Crawford does an interview, says Errol Spence is not a Hall of Famer. Everybody gets into the uproar. You know, I've seen a few videos on the subject. I don't think they tackled it all the way like it should be, but I'm gonna break this down about as thorough as I can. First of all, people got to understand that people are entitled to their opinion. Their opinion shouldn't send you to the moon. Their opinion is not law. You know, so at the end of the day, it's just their opinion. If that's how they feel, that's how they feel. You can't get angry about what somebody feels inside. You know, that's asinine. It makes no sense. That's just how the man feels. You know what I'm saying? Now, let's talk about Errol Spence. Is Errol Spence a Hall of Famer? Most definitely. Errol Spence is a Hall of Famer. Okay? Now, are you asking me personally? Do I think Errol Spence is a Hall of Famer? No, I don't think he's a Hall of Famer. But according to the criteria and the people that they say qualify for being a Hall of Famers, Errol Spence is definitely a Hall of Famer. Okay, let me give you an example, because I hear whispers in the dark about Roman Gonzalez needs to get into the Hall of Fame. I hear people like Tyson Fury needs to be in the Hall of Fame. I hear people like Triple G needs to be in the Hall of Fame. I hear people like Vasily Lomachenko needs to be in the Hall of Fame. And if that's the conversation that people are having, and the people that they're electing that should be considered for the Hall of Fame or whatever and whatnot, or in the Hall of Fame, then Errol Spence is definitely a Hall of Famer. You get what I'm saying? You know, definitely. But to me, no. But that's my opinion. But based off of how boxing runs, is he a Hall of Famer? Yes. Because at the end of the day, just like pound for pound list, there's no definitive criteria in which we can stand by, in which we can judge who's truthfully pound for pound and who's truthfully a Hall of Famer. They leave it like that on purpose. Okay? That's number one. But with all the people that I hear that people think should be in the Hall of Fame, Errol Spence is definitely one of them then, if that's the case. Now, if you ask me personally, that's a different story. But according to boxing and the way it's run and what they're talking about and the names that they throwing out there, hell yeah, Errol Spence is a Hall of Famer. Hands down. You know what I'm saying? Now, this is the thing. You got to think about it for a second. If Errol Spence is a Hall of Famer and you guys consider him to be a Hall of Famer, then by default, Jermell Charlo is definitely a Hall of Famer too. That also means somebody like Sean Porter and Keith Thurman are Hall of Famers by default too. You see how that goes? It's just that simple, but it's no way you can consider or think Errol Spence, if you're one of those people that thinks he's a Hall of Famer, and not think that Jermell Charlo is not a Hall of Famer. And if Errol Spence is a Hall of Famer and Jermell Charlo is a Hall of Famer, guess what? Devin Haney is most definitely going to be in the Hall of Fame. That's not even a question. So he's definitely a Hall of Famer himself. You see how this stuff works? You know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, y'all be getting mad about people's opinion. Okay? But if we're looking at the standard of boxing and the way they move and the names that they throw out there, yes, Errol Spence is a Hall of Famer. Now, let's get to Terrance Crawford. Most people say it didn't make no sense. Why are you putting down the guy that's probably your best win or your most known win? That makes no sense. Blase splee. I agree. I totally agree. I don't know what Crawford is on. You know, I really don't. So I don't condone that. But at the end of the day, he was giving his opinion. Just like I don't think that Errol Spence is a Hall of Famer. That's me personally. It doesn't mean I don't think he's a Hall of Famer according to what the boxing world says is Hall of Fame. Okay? Now, besides putting down a guy that he beat, and if Errol Spence is in the Hall of Fame, it only makes Terrance Crawford look better. Yes. Now, a lot of people had a problem with Terrance Crawford and what he said. You know, I also have a problem with what he said. But not so much but what he said as far as having an opinion, but when he chooses to have opinion that I have a problem with. I have a problem with that. You know? Because when we were battling back and forth about Terrance Crawford rightfully being the pound for pound #1 best fighter in the world, without question, okay, without question, right after they decide to not make Canelo Alvarez pound for pound #1 anymore, everybody know Terrance Crawford was next up. Instead, they shoved Vasily Lomachenko in there. And my only thing with Crawford is this. Why wasn't you as vocal about who deserves to be pound for pound #1 when they was putting Vasily Lomachenko over you? Because at that time, they was giving Vasily Lomachenko credit. And at that time, he hasn't done what you have done. The same way he's saying Errol Spence hasn't done what he has done. Well, Lomachenko neither has done what you have done. See? That's the same thing. But was you as vocal as talking about why Vasily Lomachenko was not pound for pound #1? Did you really jump out the window and explain and break down just like you explained and you broke down why you believe Errol Spence is not pound for pound? I mean, a Hall of Famer? Did you do the same thing when they was trying to say that you wasn't a pound for pound #1 fighter, even though you've done everything that Lomachenko was trying to achieve, but they still put you over him? Was you as vocal at breaking down why Vasily Lomachenko wasn't pound for pound #1 as you are talking about Errol Spence and him not being a Hall of Famer? That's my whole problem with it. That's what I don't like. But see, although I'm a huge Terrance Crawford fan, Terrance Crawford is human. That means he has flaws. That also means, as a man, I'm not going to like everything that he does. Okay? And one of the things that always raised the eyebrow, and I never forget stuff like this, is when you were over polite to Bob Arum when he was very disrespectful to you. I didn't respect that from Terrance Crawford. I didn't like that from Terrance Crawford. Now, I'm not going to use the C word, you know what I'm saying? Because I don't think it warrants to go that far. But that's kind of C word behavior, if you ask me. And being vocal about this is kind of along the same lines. You know, because when it counted for you to stand up for yourself, just like you want to shoot down the possibility that people might be thinking that Errol Spence is a Hall of Famer, you should have did the same thing when you was battling back and forth with the #1 spot with somebody who's clearly an underachiever to you. The same way you saying Errol Spence is an underachiever to you. That's the kind of stuff I do not like. I do not like that. So is Errol Spence a Hall of Famer? According to what these guys qualified and according to the guys that they want elected, hell yeah he is. Hell yeah he is. And maybe you could have been as vocal about Vasily Lomachenko not being pound for pound #1 when they was trying to rip you off from that title. And as a matter of fact, somebody should ask Terrance Crawford, do he think Vasily Lomachenko is a Hall of Famer? And let's see how much he'll go into detail about that. See, although I like Crawford, I told you, it's a thing with these boxers, man. These boxers be on some other shit, bro. They don't like standing up and standing on their square as far as knowing how to play group politics, aka racial politics in boxing. They all act blind, deaf, and dumb when it comes to it. You know what I'm saying? So with that Bob Arum shit, he raised my antenna up on that. Now I ain't forget about it. Now some shit Keyshawn Davis did with taking a picture with Ryan Garcia and stuff like that. He raised my antenna up on him. I don't say nothing. I just mark it down. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, all these American black boxers do this to each other. Y'all all shoot each other in the foot and y'all don't know how to have each other's back. Because at the end of the day, you guys may think it's you versus you versus you. At the end of the day, they look at it as boxing as us versus them. That's how they look at it. When are you guys going to start talking and speaking and taking up for each other like you supposed to? Because all these bigot and racist boxer fans, all they do is hide behind statements and people like this to try to justify their criticism. And people like Devin Haney will go along with it. People like Gervonta Davis will go along with it. People like Shakur Stevenson will go along with it. Y'all all bite each other in the ass. And I don't understand it. They don't view you guys as separate. They view us as one. So, next time, think about the questions that you're being asked and how to respond. Okay? Because the same credit they try to take away from you for beating Errol Spence is the same credit they try to take away from Devin Haney from doing what he does. The same way they trying to take credit away from Floyd Mayweather for doing what he does. The same way with Gervonta and on down. And y'all all do this to each other. Why? That's why it's really hard to stand on business as far as your people go when it comes to boxing, because these boxers will let you down every freaking time. It never fails. You know, that was ignorant to do. I'm just being straight up, and it was dumb. You supposed to big up and shine on Errol Spence, because you guys know, being who you are, being the color that you are in this game, how they try to downplay and downgrade you guys' achievements. If anything, you guys should have each other's back, even while going against each other. But y'all still align with racist talking points and all this other crap to discredit your brother. Just look how many people went out their way to discredit Devin Haney. They knew Devin Haney beat Lomachenko fair and square. But what did Shakur do? I think Lomachenko won. That's why I have one of the biggest problems with Shakur. But Shakur is not the only one that I need to hold this standard to. In a minute, I'm going to treat all of them like Shakur. Because I'm sick of seeing it. How do you guys not know how to play the game? Stop trying to be liked. I don't make videos to be liked. I don't make videos because this is the popular opinion. So let me go on over and bend over and touch ankles just so maybe I can get enough views and stuff like that. I don't move like that. Ain't nothing worth sacrificing me speaking my mind. Never has been, and it never will be. Stop trying to be liked. That's your problem, because they will never like you, because they jealous of you. They want to be you. Jamel Charlo tried this. What happened? All of y'all have tried this, and what has happened? And this goes for Crawford, Keyshawn Davis, Shakur, Devin Haney, all of you guys have had moments where I could easily call somebody a coon, because I don't know the way y'all thinking out there. It don't make no sense to me, man. But is Errol Spence a Hall of Famer? Hell fuck yeah, he is. Most definitely. Like, comment, subscribe. I'm out.